So on this package you will receive the Delrin plate, and then this is where the transmitter would go to. You hook it onto that. You will have your Teflon tubing, which ends up being really smooth on the skin of the bird, and they seem to last for a few years. Most of the time they don't just wear out. If you have to change it, it's probably because the bird has gained enough weight that you have to replace it, not because it's broken. The new internally threaded rings that end up holding the Teflon tubing, your harness, the new ones are twice as long, and most likely you will not have to use any type of glue to really hold it in place. And I don't think that a bird is going to get to it if you keep a transmitter on a bird. So anyway, this is just, I'm going to show you a few steps on how to put it on, and this is just my personal way of how I go about it. On the 10th anniversary TrackPack package, you will receive a tool that I made a while back. If I was having a hard time doing something, was when I was trying to take the webbing from the front to the back of the bird. Anyway, that was probably the most frustrating part of all. Once you get the webbing to the back and you put it through the plate and the ring, you're all, almost done. You just have to make the adjustments to make it fit. So I'm going to show you some of the tools that you would need to just get prepared before you put the TrackPack on. You will need a needle. You will need some dental floss. Now, if you want to take the time to do this, on the dental floss, it's strong and thin and it slides really nice through the Teflon. But I would rather have it to where you touch the dental floss with a little acetone. Okay, rub it with a little acetone. You will take a little bit of that wax, and the reason you do that is so that when you make your knots will hold better and your super glue will really stick to it. The wax will prevent it from maybe holding the knots or maybe holding any glue. Anyway, okay, so we'll go and try to take a measurement. Okay, before that, pliers. We need to, when you make a knot, we're going to put a stitch, we're going to measure it, and then when you make your stitch, the knot is going to be on the outside. And the knot is going to be right above the breastbone. And you want it sticking out, not inside, so it doesn't rub any part of the skin. And then once you're done with the knot, you can press it, make it completely flat. One of the reasons why I have this wire here is because sometimes, depending on the super glue bottle that you buy, you think you're going to put only one little drop on the knot, and all of a sudden too much ends up spilling into the Teflon, okay? And you don't want any of that Teflon to get too stiff. So if you have a bottle that you don't know that you're going to be able to put a very small drop out, then I would recommend that you put a very small drop on a piece of wire so that when you touch that knot on your Teflon, that's all you're going to drop. There's no more on the wire, and you can put it just right on the knot instead of having any spill over it. Another thing I've noticed, sometimes let's say if we take a measurement, and here I'll show you how to do that, but if we take a measurement, maybe if you make a cross, that would be okay to hold it so that it goes around. I'd rather go a little bit more of a cross right here where we make the stitch. And the reason for that is that if we, let's say, if we're still too close this way instead of this way, if we put a stitch right there, this Teflon, you're going to have to almost bring it back straight back, and it ends up putting a kink right there. That if you end up turning it just a little bit more before when you put the stitch, it seems to stay a little bit smoother right there when you pull it back. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. All right. I've already finished one with a stitch right here. And you see how it's a little bit more open, you know, the X is, instead of being this way, it's a little bit more this way. I'll be able to pull the webbing a little bit straighter out towards the back of the bird. So I put that small drop of super glue right there on the knot, and then I press it with the pliers. These are smooth pliers. I press it with the pliers, make it flat, and it's fairly smooth on the back. Now, the way you would measure how far, or how far really the stitch needs to be from the plate, I'm going to turn the bird around, and this is a personal thing, but I'm going to try to have the middle of the plate, or 2/3 of the plate, above this V of feathers right here. Okay, hopefully you can see it good. Okay, I'm going to try to have it at about right there. Okay, not have where you hook up the transmitter almost in between, almost starting to be in between the wing, right back here, that low. Let me see if I can hold it this way. Let me try it this way. Maybe this will show a little bit better. Keep my hands out of the way. I like to have the middle of the plate right here at the bottom of this V of feathers. I don't want it almost like in between the wings here, or really up here on the neck. Let's see if I can show you. This right here is where I would like to have it. Right about there. Not where the spot where you put the transmitter in is in that V. And then this bottom of the plate is kind of hiding into the wings. I like to have it right up here, right about there. I'm going to show you how you take the measurement of the bird that you're going to put it on. And this is where this little brass tool comes in place. It's really smooth on the feathers. They don't seem to mind it. So I'm going to try to put the webbing as close as we can to the neck, and place the plate on the back where we like it, and then see where the breastbone of the bird is, and we'll try to take the measurement that it's right at the very top of the breastbone. So I'm going to put it right here. I'll try to preen a few feathers out. Let's see, this bird is starting to get a little bit annoyed, but it's a good example that we can still do it. Let's see. Let me see. So I'll put the plate about where I like it, and then I'm going to measure right here. Let's see if you can see it right there. I'm going to measure where that bone is. There's the top of the bone right here. So I'm going to try to put my finger and find where that top of the breastbone is. And I'm going to measure that. I don't know if I told you that you needed maybe a ruler just to kind of get an idea. I'm going to measure it, and on this bird is about 4 1/4 inches. I think I've done a tertial Barbary that was pretty small, and that's the smallest harness I've made, and I think it was about 3 7/8. 3 3/4 was too tight. Now let's say that if you were on this bird, I think is about 620 grams or so, but let's say that when you start training this bird, maybe this bird could have been 540 grams, and the measurement could end up being different. Actually, that measurement is not going to change a whole lot. The one from the plate to the front. The one that ends up changing later on is when you go around the bird. So no matter what, too tight's not good, and too loose is dangerous too. I wanted to mention that on a bird, when you make the measurements, if you go from 4 inches to 4 1/4, thinking that that's not a huge difference, you have to remember that you're adding it to both of the webbings, and ends up having 1/2 inch more. So your changes on the size of that first stitch don't take a whole lot. You know, like if you go from 4 to 4 1/2, you think it's too tight at 4, and you go to 4 1/2, you've made it just huge probably. We've got a bird that has always been flown. This is a 2-year-old in autumn that has always flown with tail mounts, and he's never had a TrackPack. So I'm sure we're going to struggle with this bird just as you do with a new bird. Probably the first thing that you end up having a hard time with is trying to get this harness over the hood, which is almost seems like it's impossible, and you'll see why, because it just doesn't seem like there's enough room for it, for the whole hood to go through it. So hopefully this is where you see where this tool comes into place, and it really will help you to get through putting the harness into the body and the bird. Let's put it on. I'm going to have to start maybe with the braces and then the hood. Sometimes it's easier to actually put it on while you have the bird on the fist, but we'll see what happens here. I mean, you're going to struggle no matter what. Just trying to get the braces, and then the brace on, and then trying to get the hood on. Here you go. All right. Now, this is where we start to preen some of these feathers out of the way and allow the harness, to start settling kind of on the back of the bird. Let's see. Okay, we're going to pull this and let the feathers kind of go in to the front. Let's see if I can show you now this side. Maybe like that. And get these, you lift them up a little bit and get them over. Okay. All right. See, and the breastbone is about right there. All right. So now I'm going to try to put the webbing into the back of the plate of the transmitter, the TrackPack, not the transmitter, the TrackPack, and you want to make sure that you don't have a twist on it. Okay. Now the reason why I have this brass piece bent is I'm going to try to put it through underneath the wing here, but hopefully it comes out in the middle of the back of the bird. All right. So I'm going to start looking for a spot to put it through right here, and then hopefully, and I'll show you maybe, that when I'm doing that, and it's right there. So I will pull it all the way through right here. And now what I'm going to do is take it off the brass piece and put it on the plate so that we don't end up losing it. Okay, right about there. I'll take the tape off. I'm going to put the brass piece and I'm going to go around the bird like this. Put the Teflon on the brass piece and a little tape. The type of tape I'm using is not, it's really not that sticky, and it comes off very easy. So I'm just going to hold the Teflon piece, and hopefully we don't have any kinks or anything like that. And again, 10 years ago when they started using these, we were using sedatives to kind of put the bird, calm the bird down and be able to work with it. But if you're patient, it's going to take a few more minutes, but 20 minutes after you've done the bird, you won't even know that he's got a harness. The way they preen it out and they rouse, and they're really pretty much ready to go. So again, I'm going to try to put the brass piece on and push it all the way to the back, right there. Try to get some of these feathers out of the way. And then I'll put it in. Again, I'll start working it. Start working it. Oh. All right, let's make sure that we've got it all out of the way. No feathers. So this 2-year-old Onatum has never had a harness. We're going to try to keep using the preening tool, moving the feathers out of the way. I'd like to kind of get these the tips through the plate as quick as possible. The birds can get pretty antsy. Sometimes they might bait or something if it's the first time. This is the first time on this bird, but he's doing pretty good. And then we're going to start making sure that, see how they are uneven, that our tips are even, completely even. And we'll start to adjust all that. So now I'm going to try to work with the preening tool, and I'm going to get these. Let me turn to the camera, and I'm going to start getting these feathers out of the way. And then on this other side, well, maybe it's hard for me not to, get on the other side, but I'll try to start getting all these feathers out of the way. See, these Teflon tubing are cut at an angle. They've got a little bit of glue to make it stiff. You can put it right through the ring, the threaded ring, and then we'll get the other one on. Oh, get out. Here it's coming out. We'll pull it out. And by the time that we're up to this point, we're almost all done. Now we just have to make sure that everything is even. Key to how this harness TrackPack ends up fitting is you want to have these tips exactly the same right here and not crooked like that, which means that it would be most likely crooked on the front of the bird. Okay, we're almost there. Now, to figure out whether if it's too loose or too tight on the bird, is you can pull a little bit on the plate, on the ring, and put your finger underneath. You should be able to put your small finger underneath it. That's a good measurement to go by. Okay, I think it's getting pretty good. Maybe a little loose. Maybe a little bit loose. We could go just a little bit tighter than that. Maybe we'll try it. So it's just another thing is these threaded rings are twice as wide, and when you crimp it, it's got a lot of room, biting room on all this Teflon, and there's no need to have any glue, epoxy, or anything like that. Okay, I've pulled it a little bit more. They're both even, and I'm going to try it again and see how tight it is on the bird. And it's getting to where now my finger is snug. It's not loose. I couldn't put this finger in. This would be too tight. So now all we would need to do is crimp that. I'll show you. Get the webbing up. And then I'm going to crimp that. And then cut it. A tool that I forgot that you have to have is you go to your wife's beauty supplies and you steal her scissors so that you can trim the tips of these. There's one. And that's it. All right, now it seems like we're completely done. I don't really trim the Teflon right to the plate. I don't know that there's any reason for it, or it might be better. But I mean, there's a little bit left right there. And I even cut it on a little bit of an angle. You have the plate now. The plate, the way they machine it and then they heat it, it's curved. There's not just a flat area on the back of the bird. It's got a little bit of a curve to it. And then the transmitter, I think some of them have a little bit of a bent on that wire, same thing, so that the transmitter kind of hugs the back and the tail, and everything stays tight to the bird. So we'll just put the transmitter on the plate. And now the bird cannot get to that brass piece or the Teflon trying to undo it or something. Well, here you have it. This is a bird that has never had a track pad on. They fly this bird with a tail mount. It's always kind of tricky to get the transmitter on the tail mount. You know, you can see that he's a little touchy, and if you were to put the tail mount. But you know, maybe having a TrackPack transmitter and then one on the tail mount, you're pretty much all covered. In a few minutes we'll spray him down and he'll rouse, and it would be hard to notice that he's got a TrackPack on. The plate would actually end up sitting kind of inside those feathers. Later on you might have to kind of move some feathers out of the way right here at the very top to find this area, and be able to, if you need to change the battery on your transmitter, just to take it off and put it back on. But the bird's got a new TrackPack. He's never had one before, and he's fairly calm about it. You don't take it off, you just turn the transmitter on or off. So there you go.